Imagine a city, once a vibrant hub of culture and innovation, now brutally sliced in two. A concrete scar, 155 kilometers long, wins its way through streets, parks, and even buildings. This isn't a scene from a dystopian novel. This was Berlin for nearly 3 decades. The Berlin Wall wasn't just concrete and barbed wire. It was a physical manifestation of a world torn apart by ideology, the Cold War's most chilling symbol. For 28 years, it stood as a grim testament to division, separating families, friends, and lovers. In the West, a vibrant, free society thrived. In the East, under the watchful eye of the Stasi, citizens lived with suppressed freedoms, constant surveillance, and the gnawing feeling that a different world existed just a few meters away. The wall was more than a border, it was a prison wall. On one side, life pulsed with color, opportunity, and the sound of rock and roll. On the other, life was painted in shades of gray, dictated by the state, where dreams were often limited to what the government would allow. The contrast was stark and cruel. West Berliners could look over the wall and see their fellow Germans living in a completely different reality. East Berliners could hear the sounds of freedom, see the bright lights of the West, but they couldn't touch it. Any attempt to cross was a dance with death. Guards in watchtowers had orders to shoot anyone who tried to escape. The Death Strip, a barren no-man's land of sand, mines, and tripwires, lay waiting. Yet, the human spirit's desire for freedom is a powerful force. People tried everything, tunneling beneath it, flying over it in homemade hot air balloons, or simply making a desperate run for it. Some made it. Many did not. Their stories are a heartbreaking reminder of the human cost of this division. For decades, this was the status quo. The world had seemingly accepted a divided Germany, a divided Europe. The Cold War was a permanent fixture, and the Berlin Wall was its most permanent-looking monument. Generations were born and grew up knowing nothing else. To them, the wall was just a fact of life, a part of the landscape like a river or a mountain. But beneath the surface of this enforced stability, a current of discontent was steadily growing. In the East, despite the risks, whispers of change began to circulate. People shared banned books, listened to Western radio stations in secret, and gathered in churches, one of the few places where they could speak with a degree of openness. These small acts of defiance were like sparks in a tinderbox, slowly building towards an inferno. The desire for basic human rights, the right to travel, to speak freely, to choose their own destiny, was a fire that could not be extinguished. By the late 1980s, the winds of change were blowing across Eastern Europe. In Poland, the Solidarity movement had challenged communist rule. In Hungary, the government had begun to dismantle its border fence with Austria, creating the first small crack in the Iron Curtain. East Germans saw this and felt a surge of hope. They started to think, if it can happen there, why not here? The trickle of people trying to escape became a flood. Thousands traveled to Hungary and Czechoslovakia, hoping to find a way to the West. The East German government was facing a crisis of its own making. Its people were voting with their feet, abandoning their homes and jobs for a chance at freedom. The pressure was mounting both from the outside and, more importantly, from within. The time for quiet whispers was over. The autumn of 1989 was when everything changed. It began with Monday demonstrations in the city of Leipzig. What started as a small gathering of a few hundred people at the St. Nicholas Church, praying for peace, soon swelled into a massive, unstoppable movement. Week after week, more and more people joined. Wir sind das Volk. They chanted, "We are the people." It was a simple, powerful declaration. They were no longer willing to be silent subjects of an oppressive state. They were the people, and they were demanding their rights. The government was terrified. They brought in security forces, but they were hesitant to use force against such massive, peaceful crowds. The specter of China's Tiananmen Square massacre, which had happened just a few months earlier, loomed large. The world was watching. Firing on their own unarmed citizens would be a disaster. The people knew this, and their courage grew. The chant evolved, "Wir sind ein Volk." We are one people. The call was no longer just for reform, but for reunification. Then came the night of November 9th, 1989. It was a day that started like any other, but would end in the history books. The East German government, overwhelmed and desperate to relieve the pressure, decided to make a concession. They would ease travel restrictions. A mid-level party official named Gunter Schabowski was tasked with announcing this at a press conference. The problem was, he hadn't been fully briefed. The new rules were supposed to take effect the next day, with a lengthy visa application process. But Schabowski, fumbling through his notes, didn't know that. A journalist asked, "When does this come into effect?" Schabowski, looking confused, shuffled his papers and stammered, "As far as I know, it takes effect immediately, without delay." Those words, broadcast live on television, were the accidental trigger that brought down the wall. Within minutes, the news spread like wildfire. East Berliners couldn't believe what they were hearing. Immediately, without delay, they cautiously started to gather at the border crossings. First dozens, then hundreds, then thousands. The border guards were completely bewildered. They had no orders. They tried to call their superiors, but no one knew what to do. The crowds grew larger and more insistent, their chants for freedom echoing through the night. Faced with an overwhelming, joyous, and determined sea of people, the guards at the Bornholmer Strasse crossing finally made a fateful decision. They lifted the barrier. The floodgates were open. What followed was one of the most emotional and euphoric scenes of the 20th century. People streamed through, weeping, laughing, and embracing strangers. West Berliners, who had heard the news, rushed to the wall to greet them, handing out champagne and flowers. The air was filled with the sound of popping corks and joyful celebration. People who had been separated for 28 years were suddenly reunited. For one incredible night, Berlin was the happiest place on earth. It was a party at the end of history. People climbed on top of the wall, a structure they had once feared, and danced. They brought hammers and chisels and began to physically tear it down piece by piece. These Wallpeckers, as they were called, were chipping away at decades of oppression. The sound of their hammers against the concrete was the sound of freedom itself. The fall of the Berlin Wall was not the end of the story, but the beginning of a new chapter. It sent a shockwave across the globe, signaling the imminent collapse of the Soviet Union and the end of the Cold War. Less than a year later, on October 3rd, 1990, Germany was officially reunified. The story of the Berlin Wall is a powerful reminder that no wall is permanent, and no regime is too powerful to withstand the collective will of people demanding freedom. It's a testament to the courage of ordinary individuals who, through peaceful protest and unwavering hope, changed the course of history. It proves that sometimes the most profound revolutions don't begin with a gunshot, but with a simple, powerful chant. We are the people. Thank you so much for watching this journey through history with us. If you found this story as moving as we did, please give this video a thumbs up and consider subscribing to our channel for more deep dives into the events that shaped our world. Don't forget to hit that notification bell so you won't miss our next video. See you next time.